It's too good to be true. There's no way that these blokes can keep these numbers going. I know because Michael Bolton told me. Mick?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and okay, everybody, tuck your pants into your socks. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com. It's where you're going to find the newsletters for your favorite NBA team, LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up over there. Be great. Double bang this video as well. That'd be awesome if you could do that. Subscribe as well. And let's just keep the train rolling. You know that it's National Hot Sauce Day. I've already given you some time to prepare, so keep it going. I told you in the last video I wanted to hear your best hot sauces. But if you weren't there in that video, tell me now. What's the best hot sauce? How hot can you go? Do you want to burn yourself? Can you Carolina Reaper it? What's the one? What's the one after that? Chili X or something? The hottest one? I don't know. If you know what it is, please tell me down below. We're talking sell high trades. The disclaimer when we do this, the rankings that I do, and I talked about this on the buy low, but I'll do it again now. For category leagues, weighted, head-to-head, -1 per game rankings. The points league stuff is Yahoo standard scoring. If someone is a sell high, you can just write it out. Totally cool. Just write it out. Sell highs are very hard to pull off, Giggity. You approaching someone on a sell high going, hey, this guy's really playing well. Do you want him? That's so sus, man. It's hard to do. Usually the way a sell high will work, if someone comes to you for that player, because then you know that they go, oh, they actually believe in this, and then you could do it. But you offering that guy out and starting a negotiation, go, man, how good's this guy? I don't want him. It's ridiculous. It's sus. It doesn't work that way. Usually it needs someone coming to you. So maybe more of the idea of this sell high is not you actively shopping, because again, sus. It's more being aware of what these players are. And if it comes to you, then you go, oh, maybe we do into this. Maybe we look into it. The other part of sell highs is take a loss. You will take a loss in the short term. You have to be ready for that. Is that 2 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? You have to be ready to take a loss. The way you pull off a sell high is to sell a player who is cooking and might continue to cook for a guy who is worse now but will be better later. So you are going to take a hit. And if you are 8th, 7th, 6th in the standings, you need to keep getting wins. This is not probably the way you go. You just need to ride out sell highs, ride out hot streaks, and get the W's in now. If you're 3rd, if you're 2nd, and someone's cooking at the moment, but you think it's not going to last, flipping them for someone who's going to give you that same value in the fantasy playoffs is a W. There's risk associated with all of this stuff, but I think that's a good way of doing it. Let's take a look at our sell highs from week 12, 2 weeks ago. How did we go? Well, pretty well. Zach LaVine was on the sell high list. He was the 13th ranked player at that point. His usage was well up. He was shooting the lights out. He's still been really good. He's now 33rd. That was always going to drop off. And that's part of what we like to do on these sell high shows. You look at stuff where you go, no way. Just no way. And we look for multiple angles. Is it more minutes, more usage, increased percentages, weird defensive stat bumps, role changes where your point guard role is there and now it won't be later on? We want multiple angles on stuff, which limits your risk of it not happening. LaVine, 13th to 33rd. Denny Avdia, a small win. He was 52nd. He's 65th. Largely because so many players have been out there, including himself. I still have some worries that he was rolling off of minutes, which were increased, plus very high shooting numbers. And I think there's going to be a run where he shoots poorly. But whatever. They are going to clear guys out. But like I also said the other day, if they're going to sit down veteran-type players like Simons, why wouldn't Avdia be one of them? I guess they consider him part of their future plans and not Simons, but I don't know. Speaking of Simons, he was 42nd. He's 136th since then, and now he is dealing with an elbow injury. So I hope that you got anything back. I think it's going to be shaky from here on out. It was an obvious sell high, but the reason I know that these work is A, they work, but also that no matter what I say, there's always something, there's a subsection of people. Like I might say something about Simons and there'll be someone, man, you're such a Simons hater. He's an unbelievably excellent, good young player. He does everything. He's a future all-star. Someone will say that. 95% of you will go, is bro okay? Well, what are you talking about? But there'll be the person out there. Now, they probably drafted him at pick 40 or whatever, but not always. You might be in a league that's called Anthony Simons is GOAT, and everyone in that league is an Anthony Simons fan except for you. But there's always going to be somebody. There's going to be somebody who tells me that Nick Richards is the new Wilt Chamberlain. There's going to be somebody who tells me I hate Anthony Simons because I think that he's just like fine and he doesn't get to the rim and he doesn't get free throws and maybe he should start to do that. And that's being a hater. Pick your battles. Pick your spots. CJ McCollum was 35th, and even though he went absolutely bananas yesterday, he's 99th since we did this show. I think he was 150th prior to yesterday. But this is the thing with this man, is that when guys are out, random stuff happens. 80% shooting, 12 blocks, 1 of 7 from the line. Who knows? It's all over the place. But he was cooking, and he had done it for 2 weeks straight and went, all right, this isn't going to stick. It didn't. 99th since then. And Kobe White was 30th. He's 127th, and now he is also injured. So I hope you got off of those ones. We look for multiple reasons why we do this, why we think they're going to drop. Let's talk about our first sell high, and we are going to do one of those players, one of their teammates. We're going to go to New Orleans, and we're going to go to a player who I love. It's Ken Murphy. Trey is dominating at the moment. The numbers that Trey Murphy is putting up, and you know that I've said this, and I said this, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I think he might be their best player. And that's wild, because Zion and Ingram and DeJounte and CJ are all there. And Carlo Makovic. But Trey, I think he was their best player. But there's stuff that he's doing at the moment, which it isn't going to stick. 39 minutes a game is a lot, man. They're bad, but they're also winning games now. They're starting to win games, which is interesting. 39 minutes is a lot. He's shooting 64% on twos, an incredibly high number. For the season, he's at 56. Last season, he was at 60. Okay? 60 is not 64. It is a difference. It's 4%. He's the 40th ranked player, I think, rest of season. He's 12th last 2 weeks. He's averaging 46 fantasy points. I think he's not a 40-point guy. Now, I don't know what happens with Ingram, or with Zion, or with CJ, or who's available or who's not. Murphy's also had about 3 or 4 injuries already this season. What else is really high? Somehow he's up to almost 4 assists a game with 1.6 steals and 1.2 blocks. That's not the thing that he does. It's like he's good. He's a good defender. But those things are fake. So they bump all the numbers up. He's also unbelievably taking 8.4 free throw attempts per game over the last 5 games. He's at 4.6 for the season. 8.4 is a ton. So what's that free throw rate work out to be? Let me just quickly double check that, because that's an insanely high free throw rate. I can't even find my free throw rate number, but that's okay. You know that it's a lot. He's getting 7.6 points per game from free throws over the last 2 weeks. It's a lot, man. He's doubled his free throw rate. He's also now at 4 assists. He's at 2.9 for the season. Steals are up. Blocks are up. Assists are up. Rebounds are up. Scoring is up. Minutes are up. Free throw attempts are up. Field goal percentage is up. And the thing is, his usage isn't. His usage is the same. His season-long usage is 23.4. His usage over the last 2 weeks is 22.8, Trey Murphy. It's the same. His role hasn't changed in terms of shooting. He's just playing more minutes. He's doing all this peripheral stuff, and everything is going in. The argument you could make is, well, Josh, he could maybe be better than this, and he could. He's only at 33% from 3. Imagine he was shooting 38% from 3. He'd be like the 6th best player over the last 2 weeks. That's how good he is. But there's risk with injury. There's risk with Zion, Ingram returning. And there's just stuff there that's probably going to fall. What do you give up for Trey? Like I said, I think he's a top 40-ish category league player rest of season. What would you sell him for? Again, Easy to just write it out. Very easy. But if I got a top 20 player back, easy decision to do. A top 25 player probably would. Anything less, probably wouldn't. So again, is this a thing that you can go out and say, hey, take Trey Murphy away from me? No. It's about accepting offers, seeing what's around, including it in 2-for-1s. But also just writing it out or knowing that when he's on your team, hey, this is great. I love this. This is really helping me. But let's be fair, it's not going to do this the rest of the way. I think that's part of an advantage of this as well, knowing that it's great. You're just not going to be able to rely upon it. You can rely upon Game Time, though. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. What is Game Time? It is a site, an app, that shows you the best way to buy tickets. In fact, it doesn't show you. It just tells you. Tickets, sports, events, comedy, theatre, musicals, whatever it is, Game Time is going to have those tickets for you. And they're big fluff cutters, these guys. Just the wheat, the chaff, it's all gone. You just see the best options with Game Time picks. It shows you the best seats, the best bang for your buck, plus the views from your seat. The all-in pricing so that you know the full cost of the ticket up front without getting a little tap on the shoulder at checkout going, hey, by the way, fees. You see the price so you know what you're in for. Straight up. Easy done. And, again, just filtering out that fluff to save you time and money. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So let's do the second player. Now that Trey Murphy's done, we just talked about a couple of guys from Portland who are sell highs that we did 2 weeks ago. Next one, Sterling, Scooter, Henderson. So the first two players on this list go by names that aren't their names. Kenneth Murphy, Sterling Henderson. Is that a pattern for the rest of the show? I'll let you guess. Who else doesn't go by their real name in the NBA? Bam Adebayo? Is he one of them? He's definitely not. All right. Scoot Henderson. Why is it a sell high? Because now you're going, Josh, you are an absolute horse's dick. What are you talking about? I have waited for Scoot for this long, and now he is cooking. Why would I sell him? And that is a fair point, John Hawkins. It's a fair point. Shout out to John Hawkins, if you know what I mean by that. It's a really good point. Why would you do it? Well, everything is all about extracting value. If you love Scoot and you say, we're here and I waited, just sit on it, man. It's great. Love it. Fantastic. Love that for you. Love it for me. Love Scoot. But if you want to get some better stuff happening, I think you do it. He's the 56th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 35 fantasy points. I think he's a top 100 guy rest of season. I worry about how NBA Coach of the Year Chauncey Billups figures it out in terms of what do they do with Sharp and Simons and Denny, because obviously Scooter started over Sharp last game, but Simons was out. Is Simons going to come back? I don't know. And I don't know how they manage it. But it's not always just about that 1 point. Again, we want multifaceted attacks here. So sure, maybe there's minute uncertainty. I'm actually not sure that there is. I think that once you have uncorked the Scoot Genie, he's the future face of the franchise. You've finally put him into the starting lineup and he's been awesome. You cannot justify on this putrid, wretched, garbage-ass team to say he's going back to the bench and playing 23 minutes. You can't justify it. Even when you've got the gravitas of being the coach of the year. You can't do that. So I'm not worried about that part of it. It's a risk, sure. It's the Blazers, man. I didn't think Scoot would be playing 23 minutes a night this season to start with. And I'm not saying that he's even been good most this time because he's had some real stinkers. My thing is that you use the idea that Scoot is starting, that Scoot is playing 30 minutes, that Scoot has been unlocked, that Scoot breakout is here. You use all of that and understand that the stuff that he's doing is also not going to hold. 44% on threes? Is he a good shooter? No. Is he an improved shooter? Yes. Will 44 be a likely number? I would say not. He's at 35% for the season. And to be fair, he's at 39 over the last 20 games. That's a really good number. He could be an improved shooter and continue to put up good numbers. 44 is creme de la creme. It's the best stuff out there. It's the best shooter out there is getting 44% shooting from three. And no matter what you think about Scoot and about his abilities, you don't think that he's the best shooter in the NBA. That means he's at 50% from the field. He's averaging 20 points. Okay, that's very high, but 66 true shooting, 56 on twos. And one of the big things that Scoot struggled with over the course of the early parts of his career was being able to finish at the rim. He just hadn't been able to do it. And now the 2-point percentage is up in a big way, which I love to see. I love seeing him jump to that level, right? But is it going to hold? Do you have confidence for the next 30 games that it will hold? Because I'm not sure that, I'm not sure. I don't. I don't have that confidence that it's going to hold at that level. 50% from the field, 19.6 points, 66 true shooting. It seems impossible to get to. I'm not going to lie. It seems impossible for him to get to that level of efficiency. Doesn't seem like a real number. So when you're talking about Scoot, who again I think is like maybe he's top 80 or top 75 rest of season, but it's about the hype. It's about what people see. It's been unlocked. The breakouts here. He's the talk of the town. Maybe you can get a top 60 guy back. Maybe you can't, and that is also absolutely a valid way of doing it. And just going, I waited, man. I've got it. And it's about accepting offers. It's about fielding offers. It's about people. People have been worried. People get worried about shutdowns like crazy. Also, that's a broader point. Just stop with the shutdown stuff. Like, just stop focusing your attention on that so much. Like, it gets to a ridiculous degree. I had someone ask me the other day whether the Wizards would like shut down Bub Carrington. Like, come on. Like, he is bad. He is a rookie. That's not how this works. And Scooter's finally getting a chance. But there'll be someone who go, they'll probably shut him down. They're tanking. Okay. I don't think that's the case. So there's a lot of ways that you can get some value in a trade. There are lots of ways. But it's also important just to note that it's great that he's doing this, even though some of the stuff is unsustainable. Which, again, I'm pretty confident that it is. Not all of it, but a decent chunk of that stuff. The 2-pointers, the 3-pointers, the overall efficiency, even the free throw attempts, may be sitting just on a little bit on the high side, I think. The next sell high, this man also had teammates on this sell high list from 2 weeks ago. The 2 weeks ago list, we had 2 Blazers, we had a Pelican, we had 2 Bulls. So far in this show, we've had a Pelican, we had a Blazer, and now we've got another Bull, and it's Josh Giddey. And I've mentioned this on the last few recap shows about Giddey. He's 69th Giddey over the last 2 weeks. I think he's around the 100th best player rest of season. He's averaging 32 fantasy points. He's at 11.5, 7.5, 6.5 for the season. He's coming off a very good game yesterday in 40 minutes. But again, people don't always see context, and that's okay. Part of my job on this show is to provide the context, is to go a little bit deeper than the numbers. Because it's very easy to say, well, the Bulls, they're going to shut guys down. They've finally unleashed Giddey. It's time to roll. There'll be people who say that, whether that's as a manager, as an opposing manager. Even some analysts will do this at times. Right? They will look at that and go, well, look, that just happened, man. So look, that's what they're doing. I don't believe that's true. I think that with the Bulls, at the moment, there's too many guards. And last game, no Dosunmu, no White. So Giddey's minutes went way up. Now, Kobe White might miss a bit of time here. That's true. So that actually does give you a bit of a window to move off of Giddey. I think we're at a real risk of Giddey being a 26-minute-a-night player for chunks of this rest of season period. He played 40 minutes yesterday. He's averaging almost 9 rebounds a game. He's at 88% from the line. And if there's one thing we know about Josh Giddey, it's that we don't want to trust any of the shooting. Even though he did shoot, I think, 81 last season. He's at 1.4 steals as well. And historically, that's not been his thing either. So this is, again, trying to cash in on MLK Day. Trying to cash in on the idea of multiple trades in the Bulls and them turning it over to Giddey. And I'm not sure that that is going to be the case. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I'm very much not believing that is locked in. He's at 75% from the line this season. He was at 81 last season. All right. It's a lot of this to me is just about the minutes at 31 a game is maybe not what they do. And when Dosunmu, White, Levine, and Ball are all healthy, might not be all the time, and so maybe someone does get traded. When all of those guys are healthy, plus maybe seeing if Buzelis does something different position, but there are times when Dosunmu would play the 4. So if Buzelis is going to start getting minutes, then that pushes it and squeezes it back down. And I would say that it's been relatively clear, the fact they didn't give him an extension in the offseason, the fact there's been many times where he gets benched in fourth quarters, Giddey, that the Bulls don't go and go, we really need you. You are our future. I don't think they think that. So I don't think that he necessarily gets prioritized over all of those guys. So, yeah, he's big game yesterday. The game before, terrible. But big game yesterday. Last 2 weeks have been solid. With Dosunmu out, I think it's a chance that if you've got him and someone believes that they will turn it all over to him as we move forward, that you might get a top 80 guy back. You might not. You might not. And I think that even me saying these are like 97th ranked rest of season, that actually might be optimistic too. I can really see a bad run of 26 minutes a night with a healthy backcourt. Again, the window for this is extended because White is currently hurt. But I do think that there is a risk here of Giddey having a pretty poor run because I'm not sure how much they believe in him. We've got one more. Who is the final? Do we have one more or do we have two more? No, we have two more actually. I lied. So let's go to Memphis. And this man has been on the buy low, sell high shows in the past. Back in week 6, Desmond Bane was on this list. He was as a buy low back then, and he was like 130th, and he turned into the, 116th player. So like a small improvement. But now, he is absolutely cooking. And it is a great time to see if you can get that and turn it into something really good. Because he's the 21st ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 39 fantasy points. Down the bottom, you can see his season-long numbers. 17.5 points, 2 threes, 5.5 boards, 5 assists, 1.4 steals. 49 and 87 shooting. Great shooting numbers, irrespective of buy lows or sell highs. It's easy to look at his season-long numbers and say he's averaging 30 minutes a night, and it's obviously true. He is averaging 30 minutes a night. And that could easily jump up, and it probably will. In fact, over the last 6 games, he's at 33 minutes. So he can jump that back up easily. But it's one of the ones, again, we look for double ways of approaching this. Is that in a sell-high scenario, people will look at it and go, well, this is just Desmond Bane. Right? Desmond Bane will be this good. Desmond Bane will play these extra minutes. This is Desmond Bane. He's a 20-point scorer. That's what he's averaging. 3 threes a game. That's what he's averaging. But there are numerous things here which have absolutely no shot of sticking. None. So I'm not even sure that Desmond Bane, honestly, is top 50 rest of season. He probably is. But I don't think he's this level. And here's why. 2.2 steals. Okay? That's number one, not real, not going to happen. He was at 1 last season, 1 the year before, 1.2 the year before that. He's at 1.4 this season, 2.2 over the last 6 games. He's on a real big steals run. I don't buy it. I don't buy that he's that level. Again, if you move down to 1.5, still really good. Career best numbers, way different to 2.2. But it's not just that, right? That's all well and good. His minutes, sure, they could hit 32, not a problem. His usage is actually down over the last 2 weeks versus what it is for the season. 23 versus 21. The reason that he's averaging 4 more points per game is simple. He's hitting 53% from 3. He's hitting 64% from 2. And he's hitting 93% from the free throw line. That is just absolutely prime to disappear and drop. He's at 73% true shooting. His true shooting is excellent for the season. 61. 61, that's a equal career best. He was 59 the year before that, 61 the year before that, 59 the year before that. So he's around 60. That's about what his efficiency is. 73. He is at, and he's on a hot streak because over the last month, he's at 67 true shooting. These are just numbers that aren't sustainable long term. He's not going to be able to do this. And it's fueling everything. Field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-pointers made, scoring. And then you add a steals bump on top of it. Whew, it's all through the roof. He's not being a 53% 3-point guy. He's not being a 64% 2-point guy. He's not being a 93% free throw guy. As good as he is. Even if he's 88, it's still a drop. And every little bit helps. So at the moment, we're talking second round player. We're talking almost 40 fantasy point player. Dial it back, 35 fantasy points. Dial it back. Let's say maybe you believe that he can be a top 50 guy, and maybe he can. That's possible. All right, I'm not going to rule that out. The difference between 58th and 49th is not that big. But there's still plenty of room in there that maybe he's the 30th best player, the 35th best player, the 40th best player. So that's what I'd be trying to get. Like, I'd be trying to get a top 35-ish player back for Bane at the moment. Understand that when shooting numbers drop, there's a couple of ways they can go. So his 50-odd% from 3 can drop back and he shoots 39%. Still excellent. 41%. Still excellent. Or he goes in the tank and shoots 27% from 3 for 3 weeks. And then he's the 90th best player for 2 weeks. And you've really won on it. And then he'll be a bounce back up. That's how that works. At the moment, it's great. We love what he's doing. But usage is down. He's just making up for it by playing 3 extra minutes, doubling his steal numbers, and shooting out of his ass. Unbelievable shooting. And it's just not a realistic thing to expect him to keep doing. The last name on this list, psychology in fantasy basketball is a real thing. Cashing in on hype and emotions is a real thing. And yesterday, the man was my thumbnail for a very specific reason. Because we've waited for so long. And people were dropping to their knees in Walmart everywhere. I got videos. People said, look, I can't believe it happened. I didn't, but I can imagine I would have. Because Onyeka Okongwu started over a healthy Clint Capella. So you know what you consider now? You sell high. You don't have to. You enjoy it. You've waited all this time. You've gotten great stuff. I waited through this garbage where he was a top 140 player for 13 weeks and was barely rosterable. In fact, was not rosterable for so much time in 12 teams. And now, chat, we are here. We are top 50 over the last 2 weeks. We're averaging 39 fantasy points. He is a starter, I'm guessing, moving forward. Leverage it. Use it to your advantage. See what you can get. I think Okongwu, as a starter now, is a top 100 player. There's an outside shot that he's a top 60 player. Maybe. But there's just a bit here that I'm not really going to fully buy in on as much as I like him. But this is about taking advantage of the hype. Man, I can't believe I dropped him and now someone else added him. And that was you that added him. Send him back. See if that guy says, I want him all this time. I've waited so long. I need to have him. Now, you might not think that. Somebody does. I can assure you somebody does. So what's different here with Okongwu? Well, obviously the starting role. And I think that holds. I think he can play 4 to 5 extra minutes a game moving forward. So he's at 24 minutes a night for the season. He could be a 28, 29 minute a night player without really any problem. That's easily done in this role if that's what Quinn Snyder sticks with, which is also no guarantee, by the way. No guarantee that's what he sticks at. He could, but it's not guaranteed in the slightest. So, what else is wrong? Well, he's hitting 50% of his threes. And is he developing a stretch portion of his game? Yep. That's true. He could be. He could be a stretch shooter. 50% from 3 is not a real number, obviously. He's only doing it on 1 attempt a game. But that low attempt means that number will just fluctuate very simply. What else is he doing that's not real here? I think the 3.5 assists is probably not a real number. I like him. I think he can pass. That's double his season total. He averaged 1.3 last season, 1 the year before that, 1.1 the year before that. So, yeah, like he's playing 4 extra minutes. In fact, he's not. Like, this sample is 24 minutes a game for the season, 26.7 over the last 2 weeks. It's 2.5 extra minutes. And he's doubled his assist rate. Seems unlikely in 2 extra minutes. Seems unlikely to hold. He's also doubled his block rate in 2 extra minutes. 0.9 to 1.7. I like him. Good shot blocker, I think. But 1.1, 1.3, 1.3 the last 3 seasons. Now you're rolling at 1.7 in 27 minutes. Again, if that just goes from 1.7 to 1.4, it's a hit. If the 3-point percentage goes to 34, all right, instead of 0.8 threes, it's 0.5 threes. It makes a difference. 11.7 rebounds. For the season, again, in 2 fewer minutes, he's at 7.6. Unlikely you get 4.5 extra rebounds in those 2 minutes. Seems not realistic, yes? 50% increase in rebounding by playing 10% more minutes. Something's not real there. So I like Okongwu a lot. We've waited all this time. And now, if you wanted to, you could cash in on this. Because like I said, he's 47th over the last 2 weeks in 26.5 minutes. If someone thinks that he's a 30-minute player, and he might be, they might say, well, that's actually just tip of the iceberg stuff. He might be top 30 the rest of the way. He won't be, I don't think. But they might think that. Just through basic analysis of 27 a night, he's a starter. Let's push it to 30. Add that extra bit on. Let's ramp him up. 3rd-round player. I'm set. League winner. Which, again, if you want to roll with it, do it. I think it's fine. But it's about the multiple prongs. Hype. Waiting. Edging. Over production that isn't going to stick. And taking advantage of it. Or also, just enjoying it and it will drop. Whatever you need to do. That, big fellas, is a buy low. Well, it's not buy low. This one's actually just a sell high show. Who were the sell highs? What are the recaps? Trey Murphy, Scoot Henderson, Josh Giddey, Desmond Bane, and Onyeka Okongwu are your sell highs for this week. I want you to sell high on a thumb and try and just give me extra ones of them. That'd be great. Leave your comments down below. And remember, just be positive. Be realistic, but be positive. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.